Hey, good day, viewers. David Oliverio, Preaching Humanist, here with my buddy Andrew.
Hello.
And we have a interesting day here. We have been invited by a really nice guy here. His name is Seth Walker. And we are, well, I'll let Seth tell you, but we have been given a tour of the Freemasonic Lodge. And you probably in Austin, Texas. Thank you.
But we're really trying to open things up this year for people. This is so as you can see all the gentlemen in aprons. This is historically kind of the mark or the badge of a Mason.
Wow.
Behind us, we have this light blue one here that you can see. And this is actually the English Master Mason's apron. So like we were talking about earlier, the first 3 degrees are of the Blue Lodge. So once you're a Master Mason, then you're a full-fledged member. You can travel internationally. So we've had brothers come over from across the pond, and they brought over their aprons.
We call them, interesting, call them brothers.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We're brother Masons. We're all of
Oh, okay.
But one thing that's nice about this is we consider all mankind our brethren.
Mankind.
And to do good is our religion.
Ah.
And that's, one thing where I feel like that we really connected on a philosophical base. And
Yeah.
I think that's one nice thing is that even people in our fraternity and atheists, nobody has to disagree about things like that. It makes no sense. In Blue Lodge, in fact, fun fact, here we don't discuss religion or politics within the confines of the Blue Lodge. We talk about morality.
Wow.
We use the symbols of building a temple to talk about how to make ourselves better people. And we just stick to that.
It sounds like we discussed on the phone the other day, a lot like humanism. Very similar, right?
We try to build based on the ways in which we can connect. So if both of us are stones and we're in the wall of a building, there are going to be some levels on which we connect. And there are going to be some sides on which we don't connect. That's the way that stones are. Okay. But if we were to disagree on the places we can't connect so much that we start fighting the places we do,
right,
well, then we just tear the building apart instead of always constructing.
Okay. Tell us and tell my viewers about Freemasonry, just how it began and what it's about.
Yeah, so it's one of the world's oldest and largest fraternities. It originated, as rumor and tradition in our fraternity says. It started off in the ancient builders guilds around the world, and then in about 1717, 3 lodges came together in England and formed the first Grand Lodge of England, and that's what officially made our fraternity. So that's where we start our official count of how old our fraternity goes. We now exist all over the world. We have millions of members. Freemasonry contributes about $1 million a day in charity. We have hospitals here in America where we take care of children for free. We do our best to do good, and as we say, treat all mankind as our brethren, and doing good as our religion. That's what commonly unites us.
It sounds like Thomas Paine. My country is the world, my race is human, my religion's to do good.
And that's one thing that we were talking about, is that a lot of our founding fathers really held tight to Freemasonic principles that we still hold and cling tight to today.
Okay. Sounds very humanistic, as we've talked before, and we would probably agree because we're obviously atheists. And so we hold to the humanistic worldview, too, of just making this world better, loving each other. It's kind of morality's innate in us.
This year's worshipful master.
Do you mind being on camera?
You mind?
So hello.
Hi.
Hey. Thank you.
And worshipful brother, how long has this building been here, and how long has it been under our control?
This building has been here since circa 1867.
Wow.
And it's been under the care of Masonry and Scottish Rite since about 1930. I may be off. Don't quote me on that. But
we're gonna. You got your camera.
But it's about that time, and so it's been under the care of the Scottish Rite for a long time, and we've done things to outreach to the community, like the Children's Theater, and let other people host their events here.
Oh.
It used to be a German opera house.
Oh.
And used to have a German beer garden.
Oh.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
So, and this was very North Austin.
Yeah, this was North Austin. Yeah.
This was Apache territory back in the day.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's been great. We love it here, and it's a great spot here in Little Austin.
That's George Washington. He was a Freemason.
Oh, absolutely were. Absolutely.
He was. Okay.
Absolutely were. Our nation, hands down, was founded on principles from Freemasonry, but basic moral tenets that surpass any individual's religious tenets, that take on a level of ethics that surpasses any individual holy book or any individual person.
I've always heard there's a secret. Is it a secret chamber? In a secret room?
Mm-hmm.
Or
that's where I'm going to take you guys next.
Oh, we're not there next.
Yeah, that's where.
It's kind of like the holiest of holies in the Old Testament.
We don't let people up there as non-members, except for on exclusive occasions such as this, and that's why I invited you guys out here.
Oh, nice.
Today, it being the open house, we're actually allowing people to come in and take pictures of, video our actual lodge room. So
Wow.
This is one of the few times where a camera is going to be allowed into a lodge room.
I feel very honored and privileged, so thank you for having us.
It's a cool experience.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really nice.
I had to do a lot more to experience a lodge room for my first time. So,
How long have you been a member?
I first joined Freemasonry in 2014. The first time I actually got interested in Freemasonry was here in Austin in 2010. Sitting around that table we were at in the very first room, and at that time I was touring artist, so I wasn't able to actually join at that time because I was still touring. I got off tour, settled down in Colorado, where I got another opportunity to join, and that was where I was brought into the fraternity.
Wow.
Moved back down here to Texas and had the blessing and honor of coming back to the first place that introduced me.
Oh, interesting.
Full circle.
You should write a book.
Too many Masons read already.
Oh, do they?
I noticed among the portraits on the wall was, in fact, Stephen Austin himself was a Freemason.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
You'll find the more you learn about Masonic symbolism, the more you'll find it everywhere.
Oh, I bet.
Who can join? Who can become members in this fraternity?
So here in America, Freemasonry is only for men. There are some places around the world that actually do take female members, but here in America, we actually do have sections of Freemasonry, like the Eastern Star, the Daughters of the Nile, Daughters of Job, that are female bodies that so ladies can enjoy Freemasonry as well. The other thing that does define the line is we don't allow atheists.
What? What?
Sorry, you can't.
Oh, man, I'm leaving right now. No, I'm not. So why? I'm just curious.
And that's why I wanted to bring you guys out here to see that there's a lot of division there in the concept of it, but we really all are fighting on the same side, especially people like you guys who are trying to focus on being a good person first and foremost, and above all other things. One of the reasons that is Freemasons, we don't allow atheists into our fraternity is, well, our 3 degrees involve the concept of God, or the concept of a deity. Now, God is our English word. If we were in the Middle East right now, we would use Allah as the word because that's the word there that means the same thing here as God. But the concept of deity. And so because the concept of deity is within our rituals, if you were an atheist and you came in to watch it, it'd be like going and seeing a horror film about a haunted house when you firmly don't believe in ghosts. It's just not going to scare you.
why is a belief in a deity required? What do you think the motivation for requiring that belief is?
I think when the people were founding this fraternity, at that time, that was one way to ensure that there was a common morality. And now we understand, especially in modern times, that religion is not required to be a good person.
Okay, so religion defined as belief in a higher power.
You can be an atheist and a good person.
You do agree? Because we just got back from feeding homeless people. I think I already told you that.
And that's where, I don't think that there's any Freemason who's going to say that not believing in God innately makes you a horrible person. One thing is it doesn't align with the experiences of our fraternity. And that's one other level that we can come together versus what I was saying before is if you have stones set in a building, there are certain areas on which they touch and certain areas on which the stones don't touch. And they have to accept the places on which they meet and the places on which they don't. And that's what holds the whole building together. Even as two atheists, I promise you, there are core levels on which you two disagree.
Of course. And
if you focused on them, you wouldn't be able to stay friends if that's all you focused on.
Of course.
And so as Freemasons, one of the things is that we dissolve the lines that religions create between us. One thing in which unites us is a common belief of the immortality of the soul.
Oh, okay. So you believe, well, I can't ask you personally, but Freemasonry believes in immortality, life everlasting.
It does hold tight to the concept of the immortality of the soul. And that's one of the reasons why we wear our white aprons, as they represent the untarnished soul. And so we should live moral lives so that when we die and people look back on our lives are unspotted. When your grandkids talk about you and after you've long passed from this world, are they going to talk about, well, you remember every Christmas he always got drunk and slapped around Aunt Christy. Yeah. Like, is that what they're going to remember of you, or are they going to remember that you were constantly doing your best to be a good person? So here around the lodge room, this is something that you usually don't get to see up. Here are pillars erected.
What do they symbolize? Do they symbolize something?
They absolutely do.
Okay.
You would have to join our fraternity to find out.
Oh, okay. I got you.
A question. Now, this is a globe of the Earth, but what would this one be?
If you look closely, you'll see that it actually is a map of constellations. And so, atop the two pillars, one, you have celestial, and then you have the Earth, the terrestrial.
Okay.
And so, you have heaven, and you have Earth, above and below. Okay. Our three chairs that sit in the Mason Lodge are in the east, in the west, and in the south. In the east is our worshipful master. He's like the head of it.
Excuse me, worshipful
master. It's just
does that imply you're actually worshiping?
No. Okay. No. It's a term. He's the president of our lodge for the year.
Okay.
And then we have a senior deacon and a junior deacon who pretty much work as the like a vice president and a top secretary.
I see.
And so they are all just functional positions in the lodge. They're traded out every single year. So no person is in power for more than a year. No person is in any one position for more than a year. And the guy who ends up sitting in the east, for the most time, has worked up through all the different positions in the lodge, and it typically takes 7 years to get all the way into the east. And so by the time the person is sitting in that chair for that year, they've had 6 years of diligent service where people have said, yeah, this guy's really good. We think that he should, he can handle taking care of the lodge for a year. It's very, in a lot of senses, very mundane.
Yeah.
It's
the Supreme Court justice They don't have a term limit though. So you guys have a term limit, right?
Oh, and I mean that's another thing in our country that's Masonic.
What's
term limits.
Term limits is Masonic?
Yeah. You royal family have any term limits?
Who?
Does the royal family have term limits?
No. Kings, no. I don't remember them having term limits. It was
so when George Washington, the founding fathers, came over here, they saw wisdom in making sure that the seats in power were constantly changing to give new people a chance to change things.
Seth, I'm sorry. I've just noticed something here. Can we discuss this?
Yeah.
Because I'd like to do an interview in a few minutes. I just got to see this. So is this part the Holy Bible? You said something about you don't discuss religion. I'm just curious, what's the meaning of having a Holy Bible? I guess that's a King James or one of the versions of the Bible.
Well, there are three great lights in Masonry.
Okay.
The three great lights, as you see, are the square compass and the Holy Bible, or the book of one's faith. Okay. Now, what's amazing about this is that I've been in this fraternity for long enough that I've been able to see men sworn in on several different books of faith.
Okay.
I've seen men sworn in on Vedas because they were Hindu.
Yeah.
I've seen men sworn in on the Quran. And I saw a brother who was an Odinist.
What? Still Odin?
He was an Odinist.
Wow.
And so that's I mean he's legit. He worships Odin. That is his faith.
I didn't know there were any
That's
left.
legit. So that's what I say is that when there's someone who comes to our fraternity, there is no line other than the interesting one that is there a God? Is there no God? That's the only line that we actually have. Our fraternity is always trying to find the ways to bring people together.
Okay.
We're always trying to find the way to serve people. And that's one thing there. A lot of people look at the superstitious perspectives around our fraternity. A lot of people have conspiracy theories about what we are and we aren't. Two things that we do not discuss in the Blue Lodge are religion and politics.
Oh.
And that's a really interesting thing too.
Yeah.
So if you were a deist, it's not my business.
Okay.
The only question that we ask you is, do you believe in divinity, in some form of divinity? If the answer is yes, then it is. Now, what's interesting is, as an atheist, you believe that, you believe in science, right?
We believe in the method of science. Yes, that it's the best way to distinguish truth from falsity.
So cosmology makes sense to you, astronomy, astrophysics, all these grand laws that follow in clockwork, right? I mean, they happen the same way in this crazy thing. Like, why is it that you can go grab any rose and count the number of petals, and though they may be different numbers, they'll always be multiples of 5. There is some strange underlying pattern uniting everything. And as an atheist, you believe that, you see it, science studies it. You just say that you shouldn't name that thing. And what we're saying is that if you name that thing, that's your thing.
But that's enough to be excluded from the club. Just that in of itself.
Now, if you went to a Christian church and you told them that you were a Buddhist, would that exclude you from being a Christian? Not necessarily, unless it also specifically you were like, you know what? I can't get down with this Jesus because I'm too into my Buddhist philosophy. And you know what? Honestly, they disagree. The thing is, what always interests me is when people come as atheists. I always laugh, the South Park episode where they have atheists and agnostics eventually fighting about, we say no, we say maybe. Atheism is a religious stance. It is a stance on religion, or it's a stance on that spiritual. So if one person says God exists and one person says God doesn't exist, and one person says, honestly, I can't argue anyone about what God is or isn't. I know that it exists for me.
Okay. So we could get off and go chase lots of rabbits on this holes because
that's where Freemasonry stands though, is it as a thing. It's real for me.
For you. It's subjective.
So I have an experience within myself that leads me to a conclusion to say I believe in divinity.
Yeah.
Wherever your life experiences have led you, you say, I don't believe in a thing that I would use the word divinity.
Okay.
I don't believe that thing exists, right? That's what makes you an atheist?
Yes. Well, here's my concern. I'm totally cool with what you were saying about you having your personal beliefs and where Freemasons and atheists can work together on our common goals and interests and concerns. My problem, my concern here is when it becomes a separation of church and state issue. Like as a private entity, Freemasons, I would agree that Freemasons are free to exclude whoever they want as a private entity. But when you were giving us the tour, you talked about, and we have some portraits behind us of Sam Houston, of Stephen Austin. We talked about George Washington, Harry Truman, most of the presidents throughout the United States history, and almost all of the founding fathers were Freemasons. And it concerns me because, for example, you mentioned where George Washington wouldn't allow anyone in his inner circle when he was planning military strategy or government strategy who was not a Freemason. That's when it becomes a problem to exclude atheists. When Freemasonry becomes that tightly part of a prerequisite for government, then I'd say, okay, it's no longer okay to exclude atheists if you're making government official public policy decisions for everyone who includes atheists, right?
Well, especially if you go and you find quotes of our founding fathers, the ones who have the most scathing reviews of religion and its effects on the rational and logical mind, they were often Freemasons. A lot of those founding fathers who we now think of and you say, oh, they were atheists. No, they weren't.
No, none of us claim that. This was pre-Darwin too.
Yeah, and that's where when we're talking about atheism today, atheism today in the form that it exists, I don't think it really existed then.
Would you be okay if we had an openly atheist president of the United States today?
Absolutely.
You'd be okay with that?
110%, absolutely.
They would not be allowed in the Freemasons, but they could be president of the United States.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Okay. And here's the other thing. We as Freemasons believe in and will always fight to maintain freedom of the press, integrity and transparency of the government. Our fraternity, there's a big conspiracy theory that, they control the government. Man, half the time these guys can't agree on what to have for dinner. The truth is that our government is built on a lot of Freemasonic tenets, meaning that the people who built our government and put in the structure were heavily influenced by their experience in Freemasonry. Not that, so as a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not necessarily a square. A lot of, the men who made our country were heavily influenced by Freemasonry. Freemasonry did not build our country. Like our country is not a Freemason country. It's not like that. But it is heavily influenced.
If you have George Washington saying only Freemasons can make the decisions for our country, that's concerning. That would be concerning to me. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we're back again.
And so all these years.
So Seth, could you tell us that again? I just missed it. The camera was off.
Oh, well, George Washington was he was a super famous Mason. And one of the reasons, in our fraternity, we have a very strong fraternal tie. We trust each other. Something about going through these degrees gives us a special bond. Because of that, Washington believed so firmly in the sanctity of these actual ceremonies that he didn't allow any generals among his inner circle or inner ranks that were not actually Freemasons.
Wow. Interesting.
So that was one level, is that if he was going to trust you amongst his inner circle, he also needed to trust you with his fraternal secrets. And so all of our major founding fathers, when you look into it, were from our fraternity.
Okay, we can talk about this during the interview because I want to find out about that a little bit more.
This is probably the last thing that you want to get a good shot of. These are the working tools of a Freemason.
Working tools. Oh, okay.
And so these are some of the things that we go through in our symbolic work. So here we have the plumb, square, level, trowel, 24-inch gauge, the common gavel. All of these tools were used by ancient operative masons to actually build temples, to build structures. And the secret of how to use these tools was their trade. Okay. And that's what where our fraternity starts off, was we were first a workers guild, and we passed down the secrets of how to build a building. Okay. Eventually, people got into thinking about it deeper, and they were like, so what is it to build a temple not with human hands?
Okay. So building what type of temples?
The one in between these temples.
Okay, but you said that they literally built temples.
Oh yeah, if you go around the world, you'll find Freemasonic marks all around the world. Now, originally they were literally free traveling stone masons. Okay. So if somebody was building a building in Europe, they couldn't only have European builders. They had to have craftsmen wherever they could get them. So they had a giant web of people who were actually certified like a workers guild, just like a plumbers union. Mm-hmm. Now today you still have, if you want to become an electrician, mm-hmm. First you're brought in as an apprentice. And then a journeyman or a fellow craft. Okay. Which originally these terms are Freemasonic. All of the modern American craft guilds are based off of the most ancient crafts guild that is still in operation, which is the Freemasons.
Okay.
Now, I wanted to bring attention to this over here. Mm-hmm. This on the letter G, mm-hmm. and it's a recognizable symbol in Freemasonry. What's interesting is it at the bottom here, it explains the symbolism of the letter G. It says it represents geometry or deity, and this symbolism probably emanates from the deistic view of some of the early authors of the ritual. Mm-hmm. Early speculative Masons often referred to God as the grand designer, great architect, or grand geometrician of the universe.
Yep. Can you, as someone who believes in something higher, supernatural, can you somehow scientifically show us as unbelievers in the supernatural? I mean, how could you prove that to us?
Do you dream?
Yes, my brain dreams.
Can you prove to me what you dreamed about last night?
I can explain to you, of course, that is subjective, but yes, it's not an outward thing, of course.
So if you tell me that you had a dream last night that you were driving in a red Chevy and I said, I don't believe you, can you prove that to me?
Can I prove that I had this dream? Mm-hmm. Objectively, probably not.
Well, my point is I would never base an organization, particularly one that would have so much influence and power in government. I would never base that organization on the demand that people accept my dreams as real.
Do you dream?
Of course.
So what if I told the both of you that I have never had a dream in my life, and I think that everyone who says that they've had a dream are crazy? I think that they're stupid, that they're playing imagination in their head when they lay down to rest every night, and they wake up in the morning and they tell fantastic stories to each other. And in fact, human nature tells us that people are always going to one-up each other. So I don't believe that either of you dream. I think that you're making up stories to try to one-up each other because historically we've always had these things called dreams, and we've accepted that they're real. So everybody's just trying to one-up each other on having dreams. But I don't think that you dream at all.
Well, science can. Neurology does.
See, and that's where now neurology can show that you dream, but it can't subjectively show me or prove that you had a dream about a red car last night. And that's why I say, when you say, well, what is that experience that made you? And that's the only thing that I have to offer is my humble level that, man, I wish I had a better explanation, but one time, 2 times, 3 times, how many times do you have to personally experience something before you say, you know what, this is real to me? And if you come in and you say, I don't believe that you've had this experience, and I say, okay.
Can you explain the experience? What happened? What prove to you that there's something supernatural?
When humans are hungry, they'll find things to eat.
Yes. Need deprivation causes drive, which results in behavior.
Some people live in areas where the things that they have found that they can eat to sustain them are not sweet, and they've never tasted sweet things. Some people live in places that are tropical, and the only things that they eat are sweet fruits that grow from trees.
Like a lot of primates, our ancestors, yeah.
Intellectually, as humans, we feed off of what is around us. Some of us were put around religious things and weren't, it didn't feed good for us. You were a preacher. I was a preacher's kid.
Oh, yeah. What, if you don't mind, what denomination was it?
Crazy.
Yeah, mine too, but was it like a...
No, they were fundamentalist Southern Christian. They were pretty much, they were speaking in tongues, holy rollers, laying on of hands, passing people out. Oh, yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, I'm going to put my hand on you and you're going to collapse and then you're going to shake oh yeah. I mean, the wild, the crazy stuff. And now here's the thing is that as an adult.
Is that real to them though? They think it's real.
Absolutely.
Right?
And the thing is that that's an experience for them, where we can, and this is where I really love you guys, is that we can always agree on the fact of is it making your life better? Because no matter what the faith it is, there are some people who take whatever their concept is, whether it is religious or whether it is atheistic, and they use it to really hurt people and to break things down and destroy the world. And then there are some people that it doesn't matter how devout their faith or how atheistic they are, their focus is being a good person. And that's why I love you guys. And, when I was talking and reaching out, I said these guys would be perfect. Because that's one thing we can all agree on, is at the end of the day, isn't doing the right thing, being a good person, and trying to teach those general do-good concepts, passing those down, isn't that the fundamental human thing of betterment?
Absolutely. And that's where we agree. Yeah. It's a secular humanism. That's what I define it as. Now, I as an atheist, is just my absence of belief in the supernatural. But my belief system is secular humanism. That's my philosophy. Just doing good without belief in a God. Thank you so much, Seth.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for coming out and for seeing our lodge. And for also thank you for being open-minded human beings. At the end of the day, like we said, just like, if there was any place that invited you out as atheists, no matter how many places we have to disagree with each other, I love that we can always find a level on which we can say, hey, being human is important. Doing the right thing is important. Making the world better is important. And that's why, being a humanist. Yeah.
Okay. So we're not going to go burn in the Freemason hell.
Well, there is no such thing,
Glory be. Like we could say glory be like our past. We're both preacher's kids. Both of us are Pentecostal preacher's kids, except you didn't follow your dad's footsteps like I did.
Yeah, well, we're quarter-costals, not Pentecostals. They were.
Yeah, we could have some fun doing some old speaking in tongues here.
Oh yeah,
oh, that's fun. That's fun. See, we can have fun.
So many vowels.
What's that?
So many vowels when you're speaking in tongues.
Oh yeah. Sacred vowels actually go way, way, way back, but that's a whole different conversation.
Whole other conversation. So we got to let Seth get back to work. So thanks for having us. I appreciate it. And thanks for watching, folks. I think we've all learned something today. And Andrew and I feel very honored and privileged to be able to come into this place and look around. So I learned a lot today. So thank you very much. You have a wonderful day. Bye.